Before you dive into this emotional roller coaster of buried secrets and unexpected reunions, hit that subscribe button, give this video a huge thumbs up, and tell us in the comments, what's the most shocking discovery you've ever made about your past? The billionaire's hidden truth. The morning arrived at St. Jude's Hospital, shrouded in the characteristic scent of disinfectant and stale coffee that wafted from the nurse's cafeteria. Dr. Evelyn Stone adjusted her white coat for the third time in 5 minutes, a nervous habit she'd developed over years of demanding shifts. Her hands, always steady when holding a stethoscope or administering a vaccine, subtly trembled as she watched the unusual commotion in the hospital courtyard through the hallway window. Luxury cars lined up at the main entrance. Security agents in black suits strategically positioned themselves. Local reporters adjusted equipment and tested microphones. It was the day of the official visit to the pediatric ward, one of those social obligations the wealthy fulfilled to polish their public image. "Dr. Stone, are you all right?" Clara Jenkins, the sweet-voiced charge nurse, brought her back to reality. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Evelyn forced a smile and smoothed down her coat again. If she had known what kind of ghost was about to cross that hallway, perhaps she would have feigned indisposition and gone home. "I'm perfectly fine, Clara. Just a little tired. The twins woke up early today." A lie. Lily and Ben had slept soundly as always. What had unnerved her was a strange, fragmented dream, where voices from the past whispered her name in corridors she couldn't identify. One of those dreams that stick to your soul and won't leave even with strong coffee. The sound of heels echoing down the hallway brought her back. Evelyn took a deep breath and walked towards the ward reception, where she was to await the visitors. The protocol was simple. Greet them, present the facilities, smile for photos, and say goodbye. 15 minutes of her life. 15 minutes that would change everything. Daniel Brooks. He appeared at the entrance like a disturbing mirage. Time had been generous with him. At 32, he retained the same natural elegance she remembered, but now refined by power and maturity. His tailor-made designer suit accentuated his upright, almost military posture. His dark brown hair, once always tousled by the wind or her fingers, was now impeccably styled. But it was his eyes that paralyzed her, those same brown eyes she saw every day on Ben's face. For an infinite moment, they stared at each other across the reception area, filled with important people, journalists, and hospital staff. The world around them disappeared. The murmur of voices turned into a distant hum. The scent of disinfectant gave way to the phantom of the men's cologne he'd worn 6 years ago. Evelyn felt her legs tremble, her mouth dry, her heart pounding as if she were a teenager, not a 29-year-old woman, mother of 2, who had survived 24-hour shifts and sleepless nights of high fever with sick children. "This is Dr. Evelyn Stone, our head of the pediatric ward," the administrative director's voice echoed distantly. "This is the team that will welcome our distinguished visitors." Daniel stepped forward, and she noticed he had also paled. His hands, once as confident as hers, clenched into discreet fists. His jaw tightened into an expression she knew well. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Doctor." His voice was hoarser than usual. He extended his hand, and when their fingers touched, an electric current ran up her arm, reaching parts of her heart she had locked away with 7 keys. "The pleasure is all mine," Evelyn managed to reply, surprised by her own composure. Her voice was firm, professional. Only her eyes betrayed the internal turmoil. It was then that she noticed the woman beside him, Sophia Wells. She was everything the gossip magazines described. Tall, blonde, with that impeccable beauty that cost fortunes in aesthetic treatments. Her pastel pink dress, obviously chosen for the occasion, matched her designer handbag and shoes. which cost more than Evelyn's monthly salary. She smiled for the cameras with the ease of someone born for the spotlight. "Darling, aren't you going to introduce me?" Sophia's voice had that sweet, calculated tone of people accustomed to getting everything through charm. "Of course. Sophia, this is Dr. Evelyn. Sophia is my fiancée." Daniel uttered the word fiancé as if it burned his tongue. Evelyn smiled and greeted Sophia, but inside something shattered. It was irrational. She knew it. 6 years had passed. She herself had tried other relationships, but none had lasted more than a few months. How could she expect him to have stopped in time? The visit followed the rehearsed script. Evelyn presented the rooms, explained the procedures, and smiled for photos. But with each word, she felt Daniel's gaze on her like an unasked question. He barely paid attention to the explanations. He barely responded to the journalist's questions. He was clearly disturbed. Sophia, on the other hand, played the part of the devoted future wife with Hollywood perfection. She asked questions about the hospitalized children, distributed calculated hugs, and posed next to Daniel with smiles that seemed straight out of advertising campaigns. "And where are your own children, doctor?" Sophia's question came like a dagger disguised as interest. "I imagine it's difficult to reconcile motherhood and medicine." Evelyn felt her blood run cold. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw Daniel tense. "My children are at school. And yes, it's a daily challenge, but they are my greatest motivation," she replied with dignity, though inwardly she wished she were anywhere but there. "How old are they?" Daniel asked, and his voice had a strange quality that made Evelyn look up at him. 6 years old. They're twins." The silence that followed lasted only 3 seconds, but it was laden with meaning. Evelyn saw something stir in the depths of his eyes. A quick calculation, a suspicion beginning to germinate. 6 years old, he repeated, more to himself than to her. "Yes, Lily and Ben." This time, Daniel visibly paled. Sophia, oblivious to the tension in the air, continued making comments about the hallway decor and how well cared for the children seemed. The visit ended without further incident. There were official photos, thanks, and promises of future alliances between the Brooks family's pharmaceutical group and the hospital. Evelyn said her professional goodbyes and locked herself in the nurse's bathroom as soon as they left. She leaned her hands on the sink and stared at her reflection in the mirror. Her face was pale, but her eyes shone with a mixture of rage and something she didn't want to name. 6 years. 6 years of building a new life, overcoming pain, gathering strength to be both father and mother. And in 15 minutes, everything resurfaced, like a wound that had never properly healed. The following hours passed in an automatic rhythm. Consultations, reports, prescriptions. But Evelyn's mind was divided between the present and that September morning, 6 years ago, when she woke up in the infirmary and knew that he had disappeared from her life forever. It was almost the end of her shift when the bomb exploded. Evelyn was organizing files when she heard a familiar voice in the hallway, a child's voice, full of curiosity, that made her heart leap in her chest. "Mommy! Mommy! You won't believe what happened today." Ben appeared running through the infirmary entrance, still in his school uniform, backpack slung over one shoulder. Behind him, Lily walked with her characteristic seriousness, adjusting her glasses as she observed everything around her with scientific interest. "Calm down, Ben. First, say hello to everyone." Evelyn called her son's attention, but smiled at the sight of them. Those two were the reason she managed to get up every morning. "Good afternoon, team," Ben greeted the nursing staff, who already knew him well. Lily greeted everyone politely before approaching her mother. "It's good you're here. I'm done here. We can go home." Evelyn put away the last files and picked up her bag. "Mommy, something really weird happened today," Ben began, but was interrupted by his own excitement. There was a very elegant man here at the hospital. He looked at me strangely when he saw me in the cafeteria. He was wearing a suit and seemed very important. He had hair just like mine, and he froze when he saw me. Aunt Clara even commented that we looked alike. Ben continued innocently. Then she said something weird. She said I looked like your ex-boyfriend. Evelyn felt the world spin. Lily, always observant, frowned. Ex-boyfriend? Mommy! You never said you had an ex-boyfriend. It's just adult conversation, darling. Let's go home. I'm tired. But Ben, like any curious child, wasn't about to let the matter drop. The man asked Aunt Clara my name. When she said I was Ben Stone, he got very serious. Then he asked if I had a daddy. Aunt said no, that you raised us alone. Each word was a dagger. Evelyn felt her hands tremble as she put her things in order, trying to maintain composure in front of her children. And guess what else? Ben continued, oblivious to the drama his words caused. He asked where my sister was. Aunt Clara said I had a twin. Then he ran away from there, Mommy. Really ran. He left his blonde girlfriend talking to herself. Evelyn closed her eyes. She knew this moment would come one day. She knew the truth couldn't remain buried forever. But she hadn't expected it to be so sudden, so devastating. Mommy, are you okay? Lily approached and carefully touched her arm. You're pale. I'm fine, my love. Just tired. Let's go home. They walked to the parking lot in silence. Evelyn tried to organize her thoughts, to prepare for what she knew was coming. Daniel had found out, or at least suspected, and knowing him as she did, she knew he wouldn't let it go. The car had barely left the parking lot when her cell phone rang. Unknown number. She answered without thinking. Hello? We need to talk. Daniel's voice was cold, controlled, but laden with a tension she knew well. Now, Daniel, Now, Evelyn, he repeated, and something in the way he pronounced her name made her shiver. I'll be at the hospital in 20 minutes, in the parking lot. The call ended abruptly. Evelyn looked in the rearview mirror at her children. Ben played with a toy car in the back seat. Lily read a book about dinosaurs, both oblivious to the hurricane that was about to unleash itself on their lives. She knew there was no longer any way to run. The truth, after 6 years hidden, was about to come out. And for the first time since she had become a mother, Evelyn didn't know if she would have the strength to protect what she loved most in the world. Her phone vibrated again. A message. They're my children, aren't they? Evelyn parked the car in the garage at home. She turned off the engine and remained motionless for long seconds, her hands on the steering wheel, her eyes closed, her heart pounding. 6 years of silence were about to break, and she had no idea how she would be able to explain to her children that the father they never knew had appeared in their lives like a ghost from the past. She had tried to forget, but had never been able to completely erase from her heart. What do you think Daniel will do now that he's faced with the truth about his children? Will Evelyn finally reveal the full extent of their past? Share your predictions in the comments. The St. Jude's Hospital parking lot was practically empty when Evelyn arrived. Only a few night guards' cars, and, parked right in the center, under the yellowish glow of the lamppost, Daniel's black Mercedes. She could see him through the rear window, his tense silhouette, his hands nervously running through his hair in a gesture she knew so well. She had left the twins with Mrs. Green, the beloved neighbor who always helped her in emergencies. She made up an excuse about an urgent surgery, but Lily looked at her with that distrustful expression she had inherited from Daniel, though she didn't know it. "Mommy, are you sure everything's okay?" the girl had asked, adjusting her glasses as she watched her mother's worried face. "Everything's fine, my love. It's just work." Evelyn had kissed her daughter's forehead, breathing in the sweet scent of children's shampoo that always calmed her. "Take care of each other, okay? I'll be back soon." But now, standing beside her own car, she gathered courage to face the man she had loved more than her own life, and who had abandoned her when she needed him most. Daniel got out of the Mercedes as soon as he saw her. Even in the dim light of the parking lot, she could see the tension in every line of his body. He had exchanged his elegant suit for dark jeans and a navy blue polo shirt with rolled-up sleeves. He seemed more approachable like that, more like the man she had known 6 years ago. "Thanks for coming," he said, stopping a few feet away, as if he didn't trust himself to get closer. "I had no choice, from what I understand." Evelyn crossed her arms, more for protection than coldness. "What do you want, Daniel?" "I want the truth." His voice came out harsher than intended. "I need to know if Lily and Ben, are your children." She completed the question he couldn't formulate. "Is that what you want to know?" Daniel closed his eyes for a moment, as if the words were a stab. "My God, Evelyn, they are. I saw it on the boy's face. I saw it in every feature, every expression. How could you hide this from me?" The rage she had kept for 6 years exploded like a broken dam. "How could I hide it?" Evelyn took a step forward, her eyes blazing with indignation. "How do you have the nerve to ask me this after abandoning me when I needed you most?" "Abandoning? What are you talking about?" Daniel faced her with genuine confusion. "You were the one who disappeared. You lost the babies and just disappeared from my life." "I lost the babies?" Her voice came out as an incredulous whisper. "I lost the babies? Daniel, what are you talking about? They told me that—" He stopped, an expression of horror beginning to form on his face. "They told me you had lost the pregnancy, that you were devastated and decided to distance yourself from everything and everyone, that you didn't want to see me again." Evelyn felt her legs tremble. She needed to lean on the car's hood to keep from falling. Who told you that?" "My mother, Sarah. She went to the hospital when she heard you had fainted. Daniel's voice trailed off as the truth began to unfold in his mind. "She told me she had spoken with you, that you were heartbroken, that you didn't want to see me suffer too." "Your mother lied, Daniel." The words came out laden with a pain so old it seemed physical. "I never lost the babies. I tried to find you. I tried to call you, send you messages, talk to your friends. All contacts were blocked. I thought you had decided you didn't want me anymore." The silence that followed was deafening. Daniel ran his hands through his hair. He paced back and forth like a caged animal, processing the magnitude of what he had discovered. "She couldn't have," he murmured, more to himself. "My own mother couldn't have done that." "She could, and she did." Evelyn wiped away a tear that insisted on flowing. "For 6 years, I raised our children alone because I thought you had rejected me. For 6 years, they asked about their father, and I didn't know what to answer because I didn't understand how you had simply disappeared." Daniel stopped pacing and faced her. Under the yellowish light of the lamppost, she could see tears glistening in his eyes. "Evelyn, I swear to all that is sacred that I didn't know. If you had known you were pregnant, that they existed, what would you have done?" His voice trembled between rage and despair. "You would have defied your mother. You would have taken responsibility for a poor resident who wasn't fit for the Brooks world. I would have married you." The answer was quick, categorical, like a gunshot. "I would have married you that very day, and would have faced the whole world if necessary." Evelyn felt her heart stop for a moment. For 6 years, she had wondered what his reaction would have been. For 6 years, she had oscillated between imagining he would flee in fear or embrace her with joy. She had never considered that the answer could be so simple, so direct. "But that's not what happened," she said softly. "And now it's too late. It's too late for us." "It is," Daniel agreed, taking a step towards her. "But it's not too late for them, my children, Evelyn. Our children grew up for 6 years without knowing they have a father who would have loved them from the first second. They don't need you now." The phrase came out more defensively than intended. "We're fine. We've managed on our own. I'm sure you have." Daniel smiled for the first time since he arrived. A sad smile, full of pride and remorse. "Just looking at them, I can see you're an incredible mother. Ben has that genuine curiosity, that joy that lights up the room. Lily has an adorable seriousness, that way of observing. They're perfect." You watched them," Evelyn frowned. "When the boy appeared in the cafeteria today, I froze. It was like looking in a mirror from the past. And then, when I found out he had a twin sister..." Daniel shook his head. "I knew something was wrong. I started adding up the dates, the ages, everything made sense. And what do you intend to do now?" The question came out laden with fear. Suddenly appear in their lives and turn everything upside down? "I don't know." The honesty of his answer surprised her. "I just know I can't simply pretend it didn't happen. They're my children, Evelyn. My blood, my responsibility. And you." He hesitated, as if the next words were too dangerous to be said. "You're still the woman I loved most in my life." "No." Evelyn shook her head vehemently. "Don't do that. Don't bring the past back as if nothing happened. I'm no longer that naive girl who fell in love with you. I've grown. I've matured. I've learned to survive without you. I know, and that's exactly why I'm still in love with you." The words hung in the air between them, like a dangerous confession. Evelyn felt her chest tighten, her breath catching. For 6 years, she had dreamed of hearing those words. For 6 years, she had imagined what it would be like if he returned, if he discovered the truth, if he asked for forgiveness. But now that the moment had come, she could only feel fear. "You're engaged, Daniel," she reminded him, trying to cling to reality. "Sophia seems like a lovely woman. Don't ruin your life for a ghost from the past. Sophia is a family arrangement." The bitterness in his voice was unmistakable. "After you disappeared, my mother started pressuring me to marry for business. Sophia is the daughter of one of the pharmaceutical group's partners. It's a strategic alliance, not a romance. And you accepted?" I had given up on believing in true love. Daniel took another step towards her, so close now that she could feel his cologne. "I thought you were the only chance I had to be truly happy. When I thought I lost you, I accepted living a convenient life. But now I know you're alive, that my children are alive, that everything worth living for still exists." He extended his hand slowly, touching her face with his fingertips. "How can I keep pretending it doesn't matter?" Evelyn closed her eyes, and for a moment she allowed herself to feel the familiar touch, the texture of his skin, the warmth that had always soothed her. But reality quickly brought her back. "And your children, Daniel." She moved away from his touch. "Have you thought about what it means for them? They're not pets you can visit whenever you feel like it. They're children, with feelings, fears, needs. That's why I'm here." The seriousness in his voice was absolute. "I don't want to be a weekend visitor in their lives. I want to be a father, a real father. They don't even know you exist. Then let me change that, little by little, the right way." Daniel looked at her with an intensity that reminded her how he used to look at her when they made plans for the future. "Give me a chance to get to know them, to win the place that is rightfully mine." Evelyn felt the weight of the decision on her shoulders. On one hand, she knew Lily and Ben deserved to know their father. On the other, she was afraid they would get attached and then be abandoned again. "I need to think about it," she finally said. "I need time to process all of this." "How much time?" "I don't know." She walked back to her own car. "Just don't show up in their lives without my knowledge, okay? If you really want to do this right, then respect me enough to include me in the decisions." "Agreed," Daniel nodded. "But Evelyn, I won't give up. Not this time." She stopped with her hand on the car door and looked over her shoulder. "And Sophia? I'll end the engagement. It's not fair to her to pretend I feel something I don't." The answer came without hesitation. I should have done it a long time ago. Evelyn got into the car without responding and drove off. In the rearview mirror, she saw Daniel standing in the middle of the parking lot, his hands in his pockets, watching her leave. He looked as lost as she felt. The drive back home passed in a blur. When she arrived, Mrs. Green informed her that the children had had dinner and were already asleep. Evelyn thanked her neighbor and quietly entered the house. She walked to the twins' room and stood at the door, watching them sleep. Ben was face down, arms outstretched, his breathing deep and peaceful. Lily slept on her side, hugging the teddy bear she had received on her 5th birthday, her glasses carefully folded on the nightstand. They were her children, her babies. For 6 years, she had been everything to them: mother, father, provider, comforter, teacher. For 6 years, she had functioned perfectly well without Daniel Brooks. But looking at them now, she could see his features that she had tried to ignore. The shape of Ben's ears, Lily's jawline, the way both frowned when they were concentrating. They had a right to know their father, and Daniel had a right to know them. But she also had the right to protect them from another possible disappointment. Evelyn left the room and poured herself a cup of tea, sitting at the kitchen table where she used to help her children with homework. The house was silent, but her mind was a whirlwind of contradictory thoughts. It was then that the phone rang again. This time she recognized the number. "Daniel, sorry to call so late. I just need you to know one thing." His voice was different, more determined. "I just spoke with my mother." Evelyn felt her stomach clench. "And I confronted her with the truth. She confessed everything." The rage in Daniel's voice was palpable. "She really made you believe I no longer wanted to see you. She blocked all means of communication. She invented the story about you losing the babies, all to keep me away from you." "Why?" The question came out as a whisper. "Because you weren't good enough for a Brooks. Because she believed you were after the family's money. Because she wanted to control my life and choose my wife." Every word sounded like broken glass. "She destroyed 6 years of our lives out of pure prejudice and thirst for power." Evelyn closed her eyes, feeling a mix of relief and rage. Relief at finally knowing the truth. Rage at having been manipulated so cruelly. "What are you going to do?" "First, I'm going to end any influence she has over my life. Second, I'm going to end this ridiculous engagement. And third," he paused, "I'm going to do everything in my power to make up for lost time with my children. And if you let me, with you two. Evelyn, I know I can't just erase 6 years of pain. I know I can't go back in time and be present when you needed me. But I can start now. I can be the father they deserve and the man you deserve, if you give me a chance." Evelyn held the phone tighter, fighting back the emotion that threatened to overwhelm her. "I need time, Daniel, and you need to understand that it's not just about us two. They're the ones who matter now." "Agreed, completely." The answer came without hesitation. "All I want is to get to know my children. The rest we'll see calmly." After the call ended, Evelyn remained sitting in the kitchen until very late, processing everything that had happened. 6 years of her life had been built on a lie. 6 years of forced independence, of emotional loneliness, of unanswered questions. But also 6 years of growth, of strength, of discovering that she was capable of much more than she imagined. Now, for the first time in a long time, the future was a blank page, and she didn't know if that excited or terrified her. What do you think will be the biggest challenge for Evelyn and Daniel as they try to rebuild their family? How will the children react to the full truth? Share your insights and predictions. 3 weeks passed since the revelation in the hospital parking lot. 3 weeks of cautious conversations, gradual rapprochement, of discoveries that changed everything every day. 3 weeks in which Evelyn slept poorly, ate little, and constantly relived every word exchanged with Daniel that night that changed everything. During those days, she had observed her children with almost scientific attention, looking for signs that they were missing something, that there was a void in their lives that needed to be filled. Ben remained the sunny child he always was, running through the hospital corridors, making friends with all the staff, laughing loudly and unreservedly. Lily maintained her characteristic seriousness, but Evelyn had noticed that she had started asking more questions about families, about fathers, about how people met and married. It was as if, instinctively, they knew that something important was about to happen. Evelyn had decided to tell the children the truth, but gradually, respecting each child's processing time. She began by explaining that their father hadn't abandoned them, but that a very serious misunderstanding had separated them for years. The conversation happened on a Thursday evening after dinner. Evelyn had prepared their favorite pasta, a simple recipe with tomato sauce and cheese that always put them in a good mood. The kitchen table was illuminated by the warm light of the yellow lamp she had bought on sale, creating that cozy atmosphere that always calmed her. "I need to talk to you about something very important," she began, pushing her own half-full plate aside. Her stomach was too fluttery to eat. Ben stopped playing with his fork, immediately attentive. Lily took off her glasses, carefully cleaned the lenses, and put them back on. A ritual she always performed when she needed to concentrate on something serious. A misunderstanding? Lily adjusted her glasses, that characteristic gesture she made when she was processing complex information. "What kind of misunderstanding, Mommy?" They were sitting in the living room, Ben distractedly playing with his favorite toy car while listening to the conversation. The afternoon sun streamed through the window, creating golden streaks on the wooden floor of the simple little house that was their world. Sometimes, bad people do ugly things to separate people who love each other. Evelyn chose her words carefully. "Your father never knew you existed because someone lied to him." "Someone lied?" Ben stopped playing, his eyes wide. "But lying is bad. Very bad, my love. And that's why you grew up without knowing him." "And where is he now?" Lily's question came loaded with a seriousness that broke Evelyn's heart. "He wants to meet you. He wants to be a real dad. But I need to be sure that you want that too." The silence that followed was long. Ben went back to playing with his toy car, but Evelyn could see the gears working in his little head. Lily stared out the window, lost in thought. "Is he handsome?" Ben suddenly asked, making Evelyn smile. "Very handsome." "You look like him. And is he good?" Lily turned to her mother, a rare vulnerability shining in her eyes behind her glasses. "Very good. The best I've ever known." "Then why are you scared, Mommy?" Lily's question caught her off guard. How to explain to a 6-year-old that an adult heart is complicated? That love and fear sometimes go hand in hand? That she was terrified of the possibility of falling in love again and being abandoned once more? Because sometimes, when we lose someone very important, it's hard to believe that they can come back to stay, she replied honestly. But if he got sad when he thought we died, then he must love us, right? Ben's childlike logic was irrefutable. "Yes, my love." "Then let's meet him," Ben clapped excitedly. "Can it be today?" Evelyn chuckled, but it was Lily who replied. "It can't be today, Ben. These things take time." She looked at her mother with a wisdom that didn't fit her age. "But we can meet him little by little, right, Mommy?" "Yes, my darling." And that's how it began. The first meeting happened in the park, 2 blocks from the hospital. Neutral ground, where the children would feel comfortable, and where Evelyn could control the situation if necessary. She had chosen that place not only for practicality, but for the memories. It was there she had taken the twins since they were little, where Ben had taken his first wobbly steps among the wooden benches, where Lily had discovered her love for insects by observing ants carrying crumbs. The night before, Evelyn had barely been able to sleep. She had stayed in bed mentally reviewing all possible scenarios. What if the children didn't like him? What if he was disappointed with them? What if it was all a monumental mistake that would only cause more pain? At 6 in the morning, she gave up pretending to be asleep and went to make coffee. She found Lily already awake in the living room, sitting on the sofa with a dinosaur book on her lap, but clearly unable to concentrate on reading. "Mommy, the man who is our father, is he good?" she had asked bluntly, in her characteristic direct way. "Very good, my darling. What if I don't like him?" The question broke Evelyn's heart. She sat next to her daughter, pulling her into a hug. "You're not obligated to like anyone, my love. Not even him. You'll get to know each other slowly, without pressure. And if he doesn't like me? Impossible." Evelyn kissed the top of her daughter's head. "You are the smartest, sweetest, and most interesting girl I know. If he doesn't realize that, it's his problem, not yours." Ben appeared in the living room a few minutes later, still in his pajamas, rubbing his sleepy eyes. "Is today the day to meet Dad?" he had asked, jumping onto the sofa between them. "It is today. I'm nervous," he confessed without any shame of vulnerability. "What if he thinks I'm too loud?" "He's going to love you exactly as you are," Evelyn replied, with a certainty she didn't know where it came from. Now, in the park, watching Daniel approach with cautious steps, she prayed she was right. Daniel arrived promptly at 3 o'clock on a sunny Saturday afternoon, carrying a soccer ball and a bubble kit. Simple gifts that showed he had thought carefully about what would be appropriate for a first meeting. He also carried a small backpack, and Evelyn wondered what else he had brought. Evelyn saw him before the children noticed him. He had exchanged his elegant suits for jeans and a navy blue polo shirt. His hair was slightly disheveled by the wind, and he had an expression of nervousness she had never seen on him, not even on days of important company presentations. "Is that him?" Ben whispered, following his mother's gaze. "That's him." "Wow, I look just like him," the boy exclaimed, excited. "Look at Lily. Even her eyebrow is the same." Lily observed Daniel with her usual scientific intensity, cataloging similarities and differences. When he approached, she hid a little behind her mother, but without excessive shyness, just the natural caution of someone meeting someone important. "Hello," Daniel said, stopping at a respectful distance. His voice trembled slightly on the first word, and he cleared his throat to disguise it. "You must be Lily and Ben." "I'm Ben!" The boy stepped forward without any trace of shyness. "My mommy said you're our daddy. Is that true?" The direct question made Daniel swallow. He quickly looked at Evelyn, who nodded, encouraging him. "It's true, yes. I am your father, and hers too," he replied, looking at Lily with affection. "But why hadn't you come to see us before?" Lily's question came loaded with seriousness, without accusation. Only genuine curiosity. "Because I didn't know you existed." Daniel knelt to their eye level. "Someone lied to me and told me you hadn't been born. It was the biggest lie I've ever been told in my life, because you are the most important thing that could have ever happened to me." Ben tilted his head to the side, processing the information. "So you got sad when you thought we died?" "Very sad. The saddest I've ever been in my life. And now I'm happy, because you're alive. Happier than I ever imagined I could be." The simple, honest answer seemed to satisfy Ben, who smiled openly. But it was Lily who asked the next question, always more cautious. "And now are you going to boss us around?" The question took Daniel by surprise. He quickly looked at Evelyn, who made a discreet gesture for him to answer alone. "No, Lily, your mom is in charge of you. She's the one who knows what's best for you, because she's the one who's taken care of you until now. He sat on the grass to be at their height. I just want to be part of your lives, if you let me. How to be a part? Lily's scientific curiosity was awakened. Well, maybe play with you on weekends, or help with homework, or tell stories before bed if you want. Do you know how to tell stories? Ben approached, interested. I know some. I can make up others. Make one up now, the boy asked, sitting on the grass in a position of expectation. Daniel looked around, seeking inspiration. His eyes stopped on a butterfly that had landed on a nearby flower. Once upon a time, there was a very special butterfly, he began, and Evelyn saw how his voice changed, becoming sweeter, more enveloping. She was different from all other butterflies because she had two colors instead of one, blue on one side, yellow on the other. Like me and Lily, Ben interrupted excitedly. We're twins, but different. Exactly like you, Daniel smiled. The blue and yellow butterfly flew through the garden, looking for other butterflies just like her. But she never found them, until one day she discovered that she didn't need to find others like her. She just needed to find someone who loved her exactly as she was. Lily was paying full attention to the story, her glasses slightly fogged by the afternoon sun's steam. And did she find her? She asked softly. Yes, she found her. She found a whole family that loved her. The mommy butterfly, who had always known she was special, and the daddy butterfly, who had been away for a long time, but came back because he couldn't live without her. And did they stay together forever? Ben wanted to know the ending. They stayed together forever and one more day, Daniel replied, looking directly at Evelyn. The phrase resonated with something she used to say to the children, and she wondered if he remembered, or if it was just a coincidence. Do you want to play with us? Ben asked, seemingly satisfied with the story. More than anything in the world. And so, in the middle of the park, surrounded by the sound of other children playing and the smell of freshly cut grass, a family began to form. Daniel revealed himself to be a natural father. He ran after the ball with Ben, laughed when the boy scored a goal in his improvised goalkeeper game, and listened patiently while Lily explained the differences between the types of leaves she collected. When she casually mentioned that she liked dinosaurs, his eyes lit up. I also really liked dinosaurs when I was your age, he said, sitting on the grass beside her. What's your favorite? Velociraptors. They were smart and hunted in packs. Interesting choice. I always liked T-Rexes more. Oh, those are a bit obvious. Lily shrugged but smiled. Everyone likes T-Rex. Evelyn watched the interaction with a knot in her chest. It was surreal to see how quickly they understood each other, as if genetics were not just physical, but emotional too. Daddy, Ben suddenly said, trying out the word on his tongue. Can I call you Daddy? Daniel stopped mid-motion, a half-formed soap bubble on the wand he held. His eyes filled with tears that he tried to hide by blinking quickly. Of course you can. It would be the greatest honor of my life. Daddy, Ben repeated, liking the sound. Daddy, you're going to come and play with us always, whenever your mom lets me. Mommy's going to let you, right, Mommy? Ben turned to Evelyn, who was fighting back her own tears. Yes, my love. And are you going to live with us? Santiago's innocent question tensed all the adults. That's a conversation for adults, my child, Evelyn said quickly. But I want him to live with us, Ben insisted. All my friends have a daddy and a mommy in the same house. Families can be many different forms, my love, Evelyn explained. The important thing is that we love each other, not where we live. Lily, always observant, noticed the tension that settled between the adults. Does Daddy have a different house from ours? She asked. I do, Daniel replied. A very big house, with a pool and a garden. Wow. Ben's eyes sparkled. Can we see it? If your mom allows it. Can we save that for another day? Evelyn quickly interrupted. Today was already a lot of newness, but the weeks that followed brought more encounters, each revealing new layers of Daniel's personality as a father and deepening the bonds that were forming. Daniel took them to the zoo, where Lily was ecstatic seeing the reptiles up close, and asked the zookeeper dozens of questions about alligators' eating habits. He listened patiently to every question, jotted down some of the more complex ones on his phone to research later, and at the end of the visit, gave his daughter a book on British reptiles he found in the zoo gift shop. "How did you know she'd like it?" Evelyn asked. "Didn't you notice how she held the information pamphlet like a treasure?" Daniel smiled. "She has the same expression I had when I was given books about dinosaurs. At the cinema, watching an animated film about dragons and adventures, Ben cuddled into Daniel's arm during the most exciting parts. When the baby dragon in the movie got lost from its family, the boy whispered, 'Daddy, do you promise you won't get lost from us again?' 'I promise, my son. Never again,' Daniel replied, his voice choked. 'Can you swear it?' 'I can swear it.' 'Then swear it on your life.' 'I swear on my life that I will never separate from you again.' Ben seemed satisfied and returned to concentrating on the movie, but Daniel spent the rest of the session fighting back tears. It was during a Sunday afternoon, when he was teaching Lily to ride her bike in the neighborhood where he lived, that one of the most significant moments occurred. The girl was determined to learn, but frustrated by not being able to keep her balance. "I can't," she complained after the fifth fall, angrily taking off her helmet. "It's too hard." Hey! Daniel knelt beside her, checking if she hadn't hurt herself. No one learns on the first try. Even I fell a lot when I was learning. "You fell?" "Many times. I have a scar on my knee even today. Want to see?" He showed the small mark on his knee, and Lily examined it with scientific interest. "Did it hurt?" "Yes, it hurt. But do you know what my dad told me back then?" Daniel stopped, realizing what he had said. I mean, what my dad should have said, if he were a present father like I want to be for you. Lily watched him for a moment, processing his words. What should he have said? That falling is part of learning. That you only discover you're strong when you get up after falling. And that there's no such thing as failure when you have someone who believes in you. Do you believe in me? I do. You are the smartest and most determined girl I know. If anyone can learn to ride a bike, it's you. Lily put her helmet back on with new determination. Then let's try again. But this time, you hold tight. I'll hold tight until you tell me to let go. 2 hours later, Lily pedaled alone through the neighborhood, with Daniel running behind and shouting instructions. When she finally stopped and turned to him, the smile on her face was dazzling. I did it! Daddy, I did it! It was the first time she had called him Daddy spontaneously, without thinking. Daniel felt his heart would explode with happiness. Every moment was a discovery. Daniel learned that Ben had nightmares about thunder, and that during storms he would hide under the bed with a blanket and a flashlight. On the first rainy night they spent together, when the boy appeared in his room trembling with fear, Daniel brought him into his bed and made up a story about how thunder was just friendly giants playing bowling in the clouds. He discovered that Lily loved to draw imaginary maps of places she wanted to visit. A dinosaur island, a city where only scientists lived, a planet where butterflies were the size of birds. He started keeping all her drawings in a special folder, and on her 7th birthday, he had her favorite one framed to hang it on his office wall. He learned that both adored pancakes for breakfast, but Ben liked his sweet with syrup, while Lily preferred savory ones with cheese. That Ben had a habit of talking to himself when he was concentrating, exactly as he himself did, a trait Evelyn had always found amusing in him. That Lily organized toys by category and color, demonstrating a systematic mind that reminded him of his own organizational tendencies. But perhaps the most important discovery was that being a father wasn't a role you learned from books or advice. It was something you felt in your chest, like an expansion of the heart that made everything more intense. Joys were brighter, fears deeper, love more unconditional than anything he had ever experienced. And Evelyn, observing everything from afar, felt her heart divided between joy and terror. Joy at seeing her children so happy, so complete. Terror because every day she was falling in love again with the man Daniel had become. He was no longer just the ambitious young businessman she had known 6 years ago. The pain of loss had matured him, made him more sensitive, more present. He looked at her with an intensity that reminded her why she had fallen in love with him the first time. But there was also Sophia, and her thirst for revenge proved to be much deeper and more dangerous than anyone could imagine. His ex-fiancée had not taken the end of the engagement well. When Daniel sought her out to explain the situation, she had reacted with a fury that surprised even him. The encounter happened in her apartment, an elegant penthouse in Knightsbridge that looked more like a Decoration magazine set. "You're ending our engagement for some random doctor and 2 brats who aren't even yours," she had screamed, throwing the engagement ring in his face with such force that it left a red mark on his forehead. "They're my children, Sophia, and Evelyn is not random." "Oh, please." She rolled her eyes, pacing nervously around the room. "Do you really think she didn't know who you were when she approached you? Do you think it's a coincidence that some poor little thing got pregnant by the Brooks family heir?" "Enough, Sophia. I won't let you talk about my children's mother like that." "The mother of your children." Her laughter had been poisonous, full of contempt. "You haven't even done a DNA test. How can you be sure they're yours?" The suggestion hit him like a punch to the stomach, not because he doubted Evelyn's honesty, but because Sophia had planted a seed he knew she would use against them. "They're my children," he said firmly. "You just have to look at them to see. Looking isn't enough in a court of law, darling." Her smile was icy. "And when I tell everyone that you abandoned your fiancé for a woman who appeared out of nowhere with 2 children, claiming they're yours, well, we'll see how this affects the family business." "You wouldn't." "Don't test me, Daniel." Sophia approached him, her eyes shining with malice. "I spent 2 years of my life building the image of the future wife of the Brooks heir. 2 years planning our marriage, our life. Do you think I'm going to let all that go to waste without a fight? What do you want? I want you to come to your senses, end this obsession with the doctor, and come back to me. Or else what? Or else I'm going to destroy her, and you know I have the resources for that." It was at that moment that Daniel realized he had completely underestimated the woman he had planned to marry. Behind the facade of a cheerful, carefree influencer, there was a calculating and dangerous person. If you lay a finger on her or the children— "What? Are you going to threaten me?" Sophia laughed. "I have proof that you promised me marriage, invested in my future. I have contracts, public commitments. If you humiliate me publicly, you're going to pay." Daniel left her apartment with a nauseous feeling in his stomach. He had known Sophia for 2 years, but he had never seen that dark side of her. And the worst part was that he knew she wasn't joking, and that's exactly what happened. 2 weeks later, Evelyn received an official notification from the British Medical Association. She was being investigated for medical negligence in a case from 2 years ago. A baby who had been admitted with pneumonia during one of her shifts, and who, according to the complaint, had not received proper treatment. The document arrived on a Friday afternoon, delivered by a court server at the hospital door. Evelyn read the accusations twice, unable to believe what she was seeing. The case mentioned was that of little Harry Evans, an 8-month-old baby who arrived at the emergency room on a rainy morning with a high fever and respiratory distress. She remembered the case perfectly. The baby had arrived in serious condition, brought by desperate parents after an entire night trying to bring his fever down at home. Evelyn had spent 18 consecutive hours caring for the child, monitoring every breath, every heartbeat. It had been one of the most difficult cases of her career, but she had managed to save him. The child had remained hospitalized for a week and had made a full recovery. The Evans family had even sent a thank you letter afterward, saying that Evelyn had been an angel in their lives. "This is persecution," Dr. Morgan, the head of pediatrics, said, reviewing the documents the next day. "There's no basis whatsoever for this accusation. You followed all procedures to the letter. I have copies of all reports. Then why am I being investigated? Because someone wants to harm you and has enough money and influence to twist the facts and buy witnesses." As if to confirm suspicions, the following week a witness appeared who claimed to have seen Evelyn neglecting the baby, a nurse who had been fired from the hospital 6 months earlier for absenteeism, and who now claimed to have witnessed inappropriate behavior by the doctor. Then a specialist hired to review the case appeared, who questioned the medical decisions made by Evelyn. A doctor she had never seen before, but who seemed to have access to confidential information about the treatment. The investigation developed rapidly, fueled by expensive lawyers and witnesses who changed their versions of events for payment. In 3 weeks, Evelyn saw her professional reputation systematically destroyed. Colleagues began to look at her with distrust. Some parents asked that their children not be treated by her. The hospital administration temporarily suspended her duties while the investigation was underway. In addition, malicious rumors about her personal life began to circulate. Gossip about how she had seduced a rich man and was blackmailing him with children who weren't even his. Insinuations about her competence as a mother, about her emotional stability. It was Dr. Morgan who discovered that the Evans family, the parents of the baby Evelyn had supposedly neglected, didn't even know about the investigation. "They're in shock," he recounted after a phone conversation. "They said they never filed any complaint. On the contrary, they consider you a hero for saving their son." So, who filed the complaint? Someone using their name, with falsified documents, forged signatures. That's a crime, Evelyn. But proving the forgery would take time. And time was exactly what Evelyn's persecutors didn't want to give her. It was Daniel who discovered the truth. "My mother and Sophia are working together," he said, bursting into her apartment on a rainy Thursday night. "They hired private investigators, bribed witnesses. They're doing everything to professionally ruin you." Why? Evelyn was exhausted. The last few weeks had taken their toll. She was pale, thinner, with deep, dark circles under her eyes. Because if you lose your medical license, if your reputation is destroyed, they can apply for custody of the children, claiming financial and emotional instability. Evelyn's blood ran cold. "They can't. They have no right. My mother does. She can claim that as a grandmother, she has the right to protect her grandchildren from an incapable mother. And Sophia would be presented as a stabilizing influence in my life." "Daniel, I can't lose my children." Her voice broke. "They're all I have. You won't lose them." He approached, cupped her face in his hands. "I swear to all that is sacred that I will not let that happen." "How? Your mother has money, power, influence. I'm just a doctor with children to raise." "You're the strongest woman I know, and this time you're not alone." Daniel kept his promise. He hired the best lawyers in London, private detectives to investigate the irregularities in the accusations, and psychologists to testify to Evelyn's emotional stability and the children's well-being. But the one who truly turned the tide of the process was Lily. On the day of the final hearing at the Royal Courts of Justice, the courtroom was crowded as always. Evelyn arrived accompanied by her lawyer, Dr. James Sutton, an experienced man whom Daniel had hired after extensive research into London's best criminal defense attorneys. She wore a simple navy blue business suit, her hair pulled back in a low bun, trying to appear professional and trustworthy. On the other side of the room, Sophia and Sarah Brooks were accompanied by a team of lawyers that cost more per hour than Evelyn earned in a month. Sophia wore a conservative beige dress, very different from the flashy clothes she usually posted on social media. Sarah seemed like a statue of ice, posture erect, impenetrable expression. Daniel sat next to Evelyn, against all legal recommendations. His own lawyers had suggested he remain publicly neutral until the process ended, but he had refused. "My place is next to my children's mother," he had said categorically. "I won't abandon her again." The children were in the front row, sitting next to Mrs. Green, who had brought them at Evelyn's request. Their presence there was risky. Too much exposure, the lawyers argued. But Evelyn wanted the judge to see who she was fighting for. Ben nervously swung his little legs, not quite understanding why they were in such a serious and solemn place. Lily observed everything with her characteristic scientific attention, asking whispered questions to Mrs. Green about what each person was doing. The process had been going on for 2 hours when Sarah Brooks's lawyer began his closing argument. He was a bald man with an affected voice, gesticulating dramatically as he spoke. "Your Honor, we are here to protect 2 innocent children from a situation that may harm their emotional and social development. The claimant, Dr. Evelyn Stone, despite her professional qualifications, has demonstrated significant emotional instability." Evelyn felt her stomach clench. Every word sounded like a stab. First, she concealed the existence of the minors from the biological father for 6 years, depriving them of the constitutional right to know their father. Second, she is being investigated for medical negligence, which questions her judgment. Third, she lives in precarious financial conditions, unable to offer the children the opportunities they deserve. Dr. Sutton rose to reply. "Objection, Your Honor. The defense is conflating personal matters with the children's well-being. Dr. Evelyn Stone is a respected professional. The medical accusations are unfounded, as has already been demonstrated, and financial condition does not determine the ability to be a good mother." "Sustained," the judge said. "Continue, Dr. Price." "As I was saying," the lawyer resumed, "we believe it would be best for the children to remain under the temporary custody of the paternal grandmother, Mrs. Sarah Brooks, a woman of proven resources and stability, until the issue of paternity is resolved and the mother's capacity is adequately evaluated." It was then that Lily stood up from her chair. Mrs. Green tried to pull her back, but the girl was already walking down the central aisle of the courtroom. Her determined little steps echoed in the absolute silence that settled. "Your Honor," she said, stopping in front of the bench, her voice clear despite her nervousness. "I want to speak." The judge, Justice Henderson, a man in his 50s with graying hair, looked at the girl with surprise. In 40 years of his career, he had seen everything, but rarely had such a small child spontaneously asked to testify. "What's your name, dear?" he asked gently. "Lily Stone. I'm 6 years old, and I want to talk about my mommy." From the lawyer's bench, there were murmurs of protest. Dr. Price stood up. "Your Honor, this is highly irregular. The child does not have the legal capacity to—" "Dr. Price!" The judge interrupted him firmly. "In custody cases, we always listen to the children involved when appropriate, and this child clearly has something to say." He turned to Lily. "You may speak, child, but remember, you must always tell the truth." "I always tell the truth," Lily replied, adjusting her glasses with her characteristic gesture. "My mommy taught me that lying is bad." Evelyn felt tears welling in her eyes. Beside her, Daniel took her hand. "Some people here are saying that my mommy doesn't take good care of me and my brother, but they're lying." Lily's voice was firm, unwavering, but laden with an emotion that didn't fit her age. My mommy wakes up in the middle of the night when I have nightmares. She makes pancakes for breakfast because Ben likes them. She teaches me about dinosaurs and takes me to the library every Saturday. The room was in absolute silence. Even the lawyers had stopped moving their papers. When I broke my arm last year, she stayed with me in the hospital for 3 days straight. She didn't sleep. She didn't eat well. She just took care of me. The nurses said they never saw a mother so dedicated. From the witness stand, Sarah Brooks was visibly uncomfortable, avoiding looking at her granddaughter. Sophia subtly rolled her eyes, but even she seemed to be affected by the child's words. "Do you know what a mommy is, Your Honor?" Lily asked, tilting her head with genuine curiosity. "Tell me what you think," the judge replied. Clearly moved, "Mommy is someone who loves us even when we're naughty. Mommy is someone who worries when we're late from school. Mommy is someone who cries with us when we're sad and laughs with us when we're happy." Each word was carefully pronounced, as if Lily were reciting an important lesson. Mommy is someone who works hard, so we have what we need, but never complains. Mommy is someone who kisses our boo-boos to make them hurt less, and who invents stories so we're not scared. In the front row, Ben was quietly crying, not fully understanding what was happening, but feeling the emotional intensity of the moment. "And your mommy does all that?" the judge asked, his voice slightly choked. "Yes, she does. My mommy does all that, and much more. She works hard, so we have everything we need. Our house is small, but it's full of love. The fridge is sometimes empty at the end of the month, but our heart never is." There was a heavy silence in the courtroom. Some of those present discreetly wiped away tears. "Now, I also have a daddy, and I'm very happy. He's good and tells funny stories." Lily looked at Daniel with affection. "But the one who raised me, who taught me who I am, who was with me every day of my life, was her." She pointed to Evelyn. "If someone wants to take my custody, then they can take my life too, because I belong to her, and I always will." The girl stepped down from the stand and returned to her mother's side with the same serenity with which she had ascended. The courtroom was in absolute silence. Many of those present could not hide their tears. Dr. Price tried to recompose himself. "Your Honor, despite the moving testimony, we must remember that children can be easily influenced." "Dr. Price," the judge interrupted him dryly, "in 40 years of my career, I have rarely heard such a moving and truthful testimony. This child demonstrates emotional maturity, intelligence, and above all, a profound love for her mother, characteristics that only develop in an environment of care, affection, and stability." He struck the gavel with determination. "Case dismissed due to lack of consistent evidence. Custody remains with the mother, Dear Evelyn Stone, and I publicly declare that any new attempt at judicial persecution against this family will be viewed as abuse of the judicial system and may result in sanctions for those responsible." Evelyn collapsed in tears. Daniel hugged her right there, in front of everyone. Ben ran to join the hug, followed by Lily, who finally allowed her own tears to fall. The consequences for the architects of the persecution were devastating. Sophia had all her advertising contracts canceled when the story leaked to the press. The attempt to separate a family for personal revenge was not well received by the public, and her influencer career crumbled overnight. Sarah Brooks fell further when it was discovered that she had used company resources to finance the legal persecution against Evelyn. The administrative board of the pharmaceutical group removed her from the presidency. The scandal shook the company's shares, and she ended up being forced to completely step away from the business. "I have a proposal for you," Daniel said one Sunday afternoon, 3 months after the trial. They were at Evelyn's apartment, watching a movie while the children played in their room. It was a domestic scene that had become natural over the weeks. Daniel showed up on weekends, helped with lunch, played with the children, and stayed for dinner. Sometimes he slept on the sofa, when the children insisted he stay to tell them bedtime stories. Life had found a new, more harmonious rhythm. The wounds of the past still existed, but they were slowly healing. Evelyn had returned to work at the hospital with the full support of the administration, which even issued a public statement, apologizing for her hasty suspension. Ben was happier than ever now that his father was present in his daily life. Lily had emotionally opened up, allowing Daniel to participate in the nighttime rituals that were once exclusively her mother's. "What kind of proposal?" she asked, pausing the movie. There was something in his tone that put her on alert. Daniel got up from the sofa and, to her utter surprise, knelt on the living room floor, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. "Marry me!" Evelyn almost dropped the popcorn. Her heart stopped for a moment, then raced as if she had run a marathon. "What?" "Marry me." He opened the box, revealing a simple, elegant diamond ring, very different from the extravagant piece he had given Sophia. This one was delicate, timeless, clearly made for a woman who valued essence more than ostentation. Not out of obligation, not out of convenience, not because it's expected. Marry me because I love you, because I've always loved you, because I want to spend the rest of my life making up for the time we lost. Tears welled up in Evelyn's eyes before she could control them. "Daniel, I know it's complicated. I know you're scared. I know 6 years of pain don't just disappear overnight." He took her trembling hands. "But look at them." He pointed towards the room from where the children's laughter came. "Look at us when we're together. This isn't a coincidence, Evelyn. This is destiny. And if it doesn't work out," her voice came out as a whisper, laden with all the vulnerability she had guarded for years. "What if you get tired of us? What if your family pressures you again? What if my family is you three?" The answer came without hesitation, firm as a promise carved in stone. "The rest of the world can say what they want. You are my family, my life, my happiness. And as for the fear of it not working out," he touched her face gently, "I'm scared too. Scared of not being a good father, of not being able to make up for lost time, of not deserving a second chance. But I'd rather be scared by your side than brave away from you." Before she could answer, a familiar voice resonated through the apartment. "Daddy! Daddy! Lily said you're going to marry Mommy. Is that true?" Ben appeared running into the living room, still in his pajamas, because he had taken a nap after lunch. His hair was sticking up in all directions, and he carried a toy dinosaur in each hand. Daniel looked at Evelyn, an eyebrow raised in a silent question. She sensed that he wouldn't answer the children without her answer first. "I haven't answered yet," she said, trying to buy time while her heart pounded. "Then answer," Ben exclaimed, hopping from one foot to the other. "I want you to get married. I want to have a family like my friends, with a daddy and a mommy, in the same house." Lily appeared at the bedroom door, more cautious than her brother, but with her eyes sparkling with curiosity. She observed the scene, her father kneeling, her mother with tears in her eyes, the ring in the open box, and her analytical mind quickly processed everything. "Mommy, do you want to marry Daddy?" she asked with her characteristic seriousness. Her daughter's direct question caught her off guard. For 6 years, the important decisions in her life had been made thinking first of the children's well-being. Now, for the first time, she realized that what would be best for them would also be best for her. Evelyn looked around, at Daniel, with his eyes full of hope and unconditional love. At Ben, jumping with excitement even without fully understanding the meaning of the moment. At Lily, serious and observant as always, but with a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. She looked at the small but cozy living room that had been her refuge for so long. The walls decorated with children's drawings, photos of happy moments, small treasures accumulated over the years of building an unconventional family. The table where they ate meals together, where she helped with homework, where they talked about each other's fears and dreams, and she realized that that space had already naturally expanded to include Daniel. He wasn't trying to change what they had. He was adapting, molding himself, finding his place in the already formed puzzle. "Yes," she finally said, her voice firm despite the tears. "Yes, I do." Ben's cry of joy echoed throughout the apartment, probably waking the neighbors from their Sunday nap. He ran towards his parents, launching himself into the embrace they were already sharing. Lily approached more slowly, but when she got close, she snuggled against her mother with a sigh of contentment. "Gross!" Ben shouted when he saw Daniel kiss Evelyn right there in front of them, making everyone laugh through their tears. "Now you're going to be together forever?" Lily asked, always needing to confirm the important details. "Forever, and one more day," Evelyn replied. And Daniel smiled, recognizing the phrase she always used with the children. "Can I choose my dress for the wedding?" Lily was already planning the practical details. "Of course, princess. And can I be the ring bearer?" Ben wanted to know, jumping on his tiptoes. "You're going to be the most important ring bearer in the world," Daniel assured him, lifting his son into his arms. That night, after the children finally fell asleep, after much wedding planning, choosing names for the goldfish Daniel promised to buy, and deciding where to hang his rock collection in the new house, Evelyn and Daniel sat on the sofa, just enjoying the silence and closeness. "Are you sure?" she asked, her head resting on his shoulder. "Absolutely. And you?" "I'm terrified," she admitted. "But yes, I'm sure." "Why terrified?" "Because when you truly love someone, there's always the risk of losing them, and I don't think I'd survive losing you again." Daniel turned his body to face her, his hands tenderly cupping her face. "Then I'm not going to let you lose me. I'm going to fight every day to deserve all three of you. I'm going to be the man you need, the father they deserve." "You already are," she said. And for the first time in 6 years, she completely believed her own words. 6 months later, in a simple ceremony in the garden of the new house they bought together in Hampstead, a house with a patio large enough for Ben to play ball and Lily to plant her scientific flowers, Dr. Evelyn Stone became Dr. Evelyn Brooks. The ceremony was small, only with the people who truly mattered. Dr. Morgan and the hospital team were there, as was Mrs. Green, who cried more than the bride herself. Some of Daniel's colleagues, who had become true friends over the months, and the children, of course, radiant in their party outfits. Lily wore a light pink dress she had chosen herself and carried the rings on a small satin cushion. Ben was elegant in a navy blue suit that made him look like a miniature version of his father, and he took his ring-bearer responsibilities very seriously. There was no elaborate music or expensive decoration, just fairy lights strung in the trees, flowers from the garden itself in simple arrangements, and the soft sound of a guitar played by one of Evelyn's musician friends. When it was time for the vows, Daniel said, "Evelyn, you taught me that love isn't about finding the perfect person, but about perfectly loving the person you find. You showed me that family isn't defined by blood or DNA, but by choice, dedication, and daily presence. I promise to be present. I promise to choose you every day. I promise to love our children with the intensity they deserve, and with the gratitude of someone who almost lost what matters most." Evelyn, for her part, said, "Daniel, for 6 years I learned to be strong alone. Today I choose to be strong by your side, not because I need to, but because I want to. I promise to trust you with our future. I promise to give you the opportunity to be the father and partner I know you can be, and I promise that when the difficult days come, because they will come, we will face them together." When the officiant declared them husband and wife, the kiss was observed by 2 children who applauded enthusiastically, with no gross this time. During the reception, as she watched Daniel dance with Lily in his arms and Ben run among the guests, distributing pieces of cake, Evelyn realized that some stories have happy endings, not because they are easy, but because the people involved fight for them. "Mommy!" Lily appeared by her side when the music stopped, still in her bridesmaid dress, but with her shoes in her hands, because they were pinching her. "Are we a real family now?" "We were always a real family, my love." Evelyn kissed her daughter's forehead, breathing in the familiar scent of shampoo and cookies. "Only now we're a complete family. And are we going to be together forever?" "Forever. And one more day." Lily seemed satisfied with the answer and ran back to the dance floor, where Ben was trying to teach the guests a dance he had invented. "What are you thinking?" Daniel approached from behind, wrapping her in a hug. "That we're lucky," she said, leaning into his chest. "That despite everything that happened, all the difficulties, we managed to get here." "Lucky, no," he corrected, kissing the top of her head. "Blessed and determined." And deep in her heart, watching Ben enthusiastically tell a group of adults how he now had a complete family, like those in the movies, and Lily patiently explained to one of the guests why dinosaurs were more interesting than princesses, Evelyn knew it was true. Some love stories are built on ease, nourished by youth and the absence of obstacles. Others are forged in adversity, tempered by pain, tested by time, and polished by hope until they shine like diamonds. What was the most poignant moment in Evelyn and Daniel's journey for you? How do you feel about the profound transformation their family underwent? Share your final reflections on their inspiring story.